Hello, Life community, and welcome back for another episode of our Life Lessons. Today, we are talking about burnout, teacher burnout, specifically educator burnout. We know that this is the time of year when everyone's counting down to the holidays, and our staff members are moving a little slower. Our students are arriving a little later because the parents are a little bit more tired. And so, we are here to provide some strategies to help combat this burnout so you can enjoy your holiday season and finish this first half of the school year off strong. So joining me today, we have the lovely Donna Rivers from DMR Coaching and Consulting, who is a fellow educator and also an advocate for wellness. Welcome, Don, to the Life Lessons.
You. Awesome. I'm happy to be here.
So thank you for joining us. Will you please, for our viewers that are not familiar with your consulting services and your path to how you got there, share what led you to launching DMR Consulting and Coaching?
Absolutely. So I'm actually a former educator. I was a school librarian for 20 years. And I've been a wellness practitioner, specifically yoga teacher, for 10 years. So I owned a yoga studio. I've taught 24 women of color to become yoga teachers under what I call the Dawn Experience. I've had retreats both in Ohio, regionally, and internationally. And my focus has always been on happiness, wholeness, and freedom. So I didn't really know that educational consulting was a thing until I happened upon a leader in the community and joined this new community. And I was like, you know what? I can combine the two things together because I still have lots of educator friends and I hear the sigh, I only got 5 more years. I got 2 more years. Like that sigh. And I was like, why are they like always sighing? Because they are at the point of burnout and they have lost their excitement and energy and enthusiasm for education. I was like, you know what? I got some tips. I got some tools. And as I was talking to my best friend, who is a principal, an assistant principal, she was like, oh yeah, teacher burnout is real. Attrition is at a high rate. People are exiting the field and they're not coming in. So the ones that are there have so much to manage that is out of control. So when I kind of like told her what I wanted to do, she said, absolutely. Your services are what educators need. School districts, school leaders need to pay attention because you have the solution. So that's how it came about. And DMR is named after me.
Awesome story. And I can definitely relate because that is what led me out of the building and into this nonprofit world to provide resources to help prevent one of the things we do is to help prevent educator burnout and promote educator wellness. So thank you for what you do and for filling that gap because it is so needed. Our students can't afford to lose any more great teachers. So we thank you. So there, some people may be experiencing burnout, but think that they're just tired. But burnout is way past the tired stage. So what are some warning signs that we should be looking for to see if we're burnt out or if we're just a little tired?
Cynicism. Being
Mm,
cynical would
mm,
be one of the first indicators. And when I was in a space of kind of burned out because I had environmental issues or relationship issues that were encroaching on my personal life. And this one time I worked at a middle school for 5 years. And I'm not a middle school person. Like if you're a middle school teacher, you ride or die for middle school. I did not. And I lived 5 minutes away from this middle school. I was late every day, and I could see myself becoming more and more cynical, so much so that I would slump in my seat at my desk at the back of the library where my desk was. And I heard these words coming out of my mouth, and I'm like, that is not who I am. So I would say cynicism. I'm looking down at my notes because I wrote some things down. So cynicism would be one of the key things, and being overly critical about everything because it's eventually going to come up how you feel in your body is going to surface. That's why you get like acne, because probably you're eating poorly. Or if you have so much stress, you might get gray hair. So the body is going to show. And therefore, the words are going to come out that way too. So cynicism and criticism would be the first two indicators of maybe I ain't just right. Other physical manifestations, you're not sleeping well. You can't go to sleep, or you don't stay asleep. So your whole sleep pattern is off. That's a warning sign of something's wrong. And another huge one is your bowels. So your stomach, either you have an upset stomach, you have indigestion, you might be having cramps, diarrhea, constipation. The body is holding on to things. So there's emotional signs, there's physical signs, and behavioral signs. And there's plenty more, but that's a start.
Right, right. And those are some great signs. Again, I wish I would have known about DMR coaching and consulting when I was still in the buildings, because you just described everything I went through. Another symptom that I had was that I just could not get enough rest. Is that also a common symptom of burnout? Like it didn't matter how long I slept?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
So the burnout is also kind of like a symptom of depression. And I've heard this before. I need to go back and research it. But I read somewhere that depression is you being angry internally. So it's turning back in on yourself. And if you're not feeling up to par because of maybe imposter syndrome, or maybe there's some relational things going on, maybe you're not getting along with your coworkers, or maybe your team leader, or your principal, and therefore you are like cycling these thoughts at night, and they keep going over and over and over in your head like that hamster. And that's a real thing, by the way, because when my son was little, I called him Dr. Doolittle, because we had all kind of animals, and one was a hamster, and he was like, the hamster is on his wheel, it won't be quiet. So at night, because they're nocturnal, little, like they're in the rodent family, it'd be like spinning on the wheel. So we had to physically remove the hamster out of his bedroom and put it in the basement so he didn't hear it. So when you are on this space of about to be burned out, you're going through the words over and over in your head, you have to do something to remove the thoughts so you can sleep.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Awesome. So now we're going to get into some strategies, and I'd like to target every stakeholder individually. So let's start with our teachers. What are some strategies that our teachers can use to prevent burnout? Especially, again, it's that time of the year where we're going into the holiday season. Observations are taking place, testing is starting to take place. Students are realizing that they're not passing, so now it's makeup work time. All those different pressures are now starting to happen. So how can our educators, just manage the demands of this time of year?
So I call them the 3 M's, and this is a part of my framework: movement, mindfulness, and mindset. So move your body. Most of the time, it is stuck energy in your body. You can do a full body shake. That will help. I call it full body twerk, but So shake your body, like shake it vigorously. And that will actually help the nervous system release tension. If you think about boxers, or what do they call it, like the MMA fighters, what do? They're jumping and they're shaking because they have this nervous tension in their bodies. That is one of the ways that you can literally release. Another way to move is stretching. I don't mean yoga, because yoga is more than stretching, but stretching, reaching your arms up towards the ceiling, doing a side bend to one side, a side bend to the other side, stretch down and reach for your toes. You do not have to touch your toes, but releasing and folding and reaching down will elongate your muscles on the backside of your body. And then as you raise back up, reach backwards and do a little bit of a back bend, and that will stretch the muscles in the front of your body. A walk. So maybe if you're in a school building that has steps, take the steps, right? Walk around the first floor and go all the way to the end of the hall, come up the steps, and then go back down and around to your room. Yes, I know during the specials, because I was a special teacher, you want to do some planning or checking emails. Maybe just this time, this planning period, walk the steps, walk the building, or walk outside the building. If you are shopping, maybe park further away from the door and get those steps in. And then the last thing is any other movement that you like. So if you like to dance, dance more. And we have so many examples of teachers working with their students and teaching them different dances. Some lady was pregnant. I know y'all saw this.
Yeah, the Thriller.
And did the Thriller.
Yes.
I was like, what the what? And she put her own little
And
spin
she
on
was
it.
all in it too.
All in it. So teach them, like make it a lesson. Move. So that's the first one, movement. Mindfulness is breath work, meditation, prayer, journaling, anything that actually puts you into the present moment. So an easy way to breathe, I call it the 4-6-8 breath. There's some other ones out there, but I like this one. So you inhale for 4, you hold it for 6, and you exhale for 8. You do that for about 4 cycles, and I promise you, your body will settle. So we have like this nervous system that either is in fight or flight or rest and digest. You want to be more in the state of rest and digest, which is the aspect of being calm. So breathe, do this cycle of breath 4 times, close your eyes if you want or not, and then, whoa, plus you're getting so much more oxygen to your brain. Which is a huge thing, because the brain gets hot, it gets overheated. I say, like the computers, we all have the Chromebooks and all the things, and they get hot. And you got to like plug them back in. You might have to restart the program because it ain't working, Miss Rivers. It ain't working. When in doubt, restart. Same thing for your brain. Meditation is sitting in stillness or guided meditation, but I would really like, I guess, encourage people to sit in stillness and in quiet. So that means no music, no other outside influences, just you and you. Sit by yourself. Start with 5 minutes for 5 days, then 7 minutes for 7 days, until you get up to a consistent 15 minutes every single day. So meditation is a practice, just like learning your favorite line dance. You got to do it over and over. Learning how to golf. You got to do it over and over. Learning how to swim, learning how to play an instrument, learning how to cook the perfect pound cake. You got to do it over and over, right? It's a practice. So meditation is the same way. And then journaling. So there's so many journal prompts out here, or you can just free write. And prayer. I think prayer is important. We all have a connection to something bigger than ourselves. For me, it's God. But some people say spirit, some people say universe, some are Allah, whichever it is, taking the time to pray. So that would be your mindfulness, being in the present moment. And then the last is your mindset. I say this, get your mind right.
Right.
Get your mind right. So the thoughts that you have in your head will create more. We already talked about cynicism. Those are thoughts. It will create more of what you have. So if it's negative, you don't get more negative. If you say, oh, I can't do that, forget that, I ain't trying that, all of that negativity is going to keep you stuck. So a growth mindset is in the space of always learning, always trying something new, always doing something different. So maybe the mindset is, you know what, I'm going to let little Tariq, who is always interrupting, be my helper today. Right? Change it up. So when I was a school librarian, I always tell this story because it's important. He was one of my favorite students after he corrected me. Little 5-year-old, his name was Ori, and he was probably the smartest kid I've ever had in my 20 years. And I'm reading a book about lizards and reptiles, and I read this one book and I'm like, and the Gila monster, this and the Gila monster that. He's like, Miss Rivers, it's called Gila monster. I said, it starts with a G. It's Gila monster. And so I dismissed them for my lesson, and we're looking for books. And then I was like, let me just go double check. Let me find another book. And I found another book, and it had how to pronounce it, how to say it, phonetically, it wasn't with a G, it's actually with an H. So I was like,
wow.
come here. You were right. He was like, I know. He knew. So I had to be in the space of like learning, right? A
Right.
5-year-old little Black boy, he knew because he was like, I read lots of
Wow.
books. I'm
Yeah.
always reading. And so a growth mindset is being open to learning something new, open to trying something new, open to being different, better, and more. So movement, mindfulness, and mindset, that will help with burnout.
Wow. What about our babies? How can we help our students, and for those of us that are parents, our children with avoiding burnout? Because I
Same
see
thing.
it in my son, and I'm working to prevent it in him.
Same thing. So I would say our bodies are not meant to sit as long as they do in school.
Right.
So again, I was a school librarian. It's not the same thing as a regular classroom teacher or subject area teacher where you have so many things that you have to do in that time period. So I had different setup for different kids. And if a kid needed to pace, I let that kid pace. I knew they were listening, but if they needed to move their bodies, it was better for them to move their bodies than to be disruptive by calling out. So most kids need a movement break, right? So Einstein, I think, and maybe even whatever Tesla's name, Nikola Tesla, the real Tesla, I ain't talking about the other man. A lot of geniuses, they would work for so many minutes or hours, and then they take a break. They would get up and move away from what they were doing and then come back. You're actually more productive that way. I believe for myself, 75 to 90 minutes of work and then a 10 or 15-minute break actually helps. So have the kids, if you see that it's not landing, why are you pounding it in them?
Right.
Help them do what is natural, move, wiggle, shake, put on their favorite. I mean, like, don't they still have like those dance videos on YouTube?
Yes, a ton of
Have them do that 5 minutes. It will reset the room and then they can be back on track. Right. And then mindfulness, kids need to breathe. They don't know how to breathe. They need the space to feel their feelings. And I don't mean like that, almost toxic. I think that we swung so far where we had this whole like toxic type of things is like, I was feeling this way. Okay, I don't need to necessarily hear every time you feel a certain way. You can learn to manage your own feelings without having to tell the entire room that you feel a certain way. So maybe it is having journals at their desk or at home. And it's like, if you're feeling something, just ask or tell me that you need to journal your feelings for a few minutes and then come back to work. And maybe it is like right before the bell rings, before you're switching periods, turn the light off for 90 seconds and have everybody cross their fingers, put them in their lap, close their eyes, and you're watching the room. Tell them, I'm going to make sure the room is safe for you. I'm guarding the space so everyone feels safe. If they don't feel safe to close their eyes, tell them to soften their eyes down in front of them. And then you've made a small little cocooned area for them to release some of that tension. And then again, mindset is the same thing. So maybe allow them to learn the math slightly differently. If they got to the answer,
Right.
They got to the answer.
Yes.
It might not have been the way you want to teach them, but so I like, here's an example. Back to, again, my elementary school days. That was my jam, my favorite. I had this boy whose father worked for NASA, and I'm doing space for first graders. And kids are so curious. They're so curious. And I would pass out coloring sheets because I would dismiss the kids by tables and then they would choose their library books. So while you're waiting to be dismissed, you have your coloring sheet. And this boy's like, Miss Rivers, may I please draw a black hole on the back of my paper? And I was like, yeah. So he didn't want to color. He wanted to draw a 3-dimensional black hole as a 6-year-old.
Wow.
So I was like, absolutely, because his mindset was that I learned this from my dad who works at NASA, and I want to draw a black hole. I didn't want to hold him to, no, you got to color these stars and this moon I got on the other side of the paper.
Right.
Allow them to be curious.
Right. Yeah.
Allow them to be curious.
Okay. And then lastly, our administrators. So they're responsible for managing their staff and students burnout, but a lot of times as administrators, we fail on managing our own burnout. So how can our administrators support their students and staff, but also manage
Themselves.
their own? Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I've never been an administrator, so I don't know if this is a part of the curriculum, but time management skills.
Mm-hmm.
I would say the most reason why administrators get burned out because they didn't manage their time correctly, and they probably micromanage their staff.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So we hire people who can do the jobs that we can't do. So if you're in the office and you have your receptionist and you have your administrative assistant or whomever is in the office, they need to be trained in a way that they can do the job so you can do yours. You don't, like if you have, if you are in middle school and you have counselors, assistant principals, and then you let them do their job. So if the assistant principal's job is attendance, let them do attendance. Right. If the job is discipline, let them do discipline. If their job is to evaluate teachers A through L, and then the other one is N through Z, let them do that. And then maybe you are on your cycle of doing whomever that needs to be evaluated. Mm-hmm. So time management and management skills, I would say, is probably one of the biggest things, right? Mm-hmm. Delegate. And then the same thing is carve out time for yourself. That also might mean that you have to get up a little earlier. And you do your walking, your running, your Tai Chi, whichever you need to do at the beginning of the day. And when you do move your body at the beginning of the day, it actually gives you energy to sustain the day. Because by the time you get home, you're like, I don't feel like doing that. I still do this. I got to go back to school. There's a play tonight. I got to be at the play. Or I need to be at that football game. Oh man, it's cold. So that, I would say, that's the biggest thing, is time management. And that also means, like, with your family, you make it known. Most of the times, educators who move into leadership, they don't spend that much time with their family. Maybe you say, like, I would like the kids and the wife or the husband or the partner to come with me to the Friday night games for this season. Support me. That makes me feel good. I can look up and I see you in the stands. And then we had family time together. And that's going to make the endorphins there and the dopamine there, because it's like, this is not just work. This is a time my family can be here. And maybe it's a rival school, and maybe it's the same school, but, creating community. But they need the same movement, mindfulness, and mindset.
Yeah. And they also need someone to check on them, right? So like the teachers should also be supporting their administrator. Like, you need your leader to be strong, and so
that's one of the things that I talk about too in my coaching and consulting.
Yeah, that's what helps with the culture of the school, is when it's actually a community and everyone is concerned about everyone's well-being. Like those schools that you walk into that are like that, you feel it, and it's amazing.
You can tell. You can tell.
Yes.
One of the things that I want to emphasize in my programming with schools is like challenges that are fun. Right. And then giving people acknowledgement for finishing the challenge. So maybe it is, like I said in the beginning, walking the school or walking the stairs. And everybody has some way to keep track of their steps. So we can have a running tally. Which person or which team or which grades or whichever, however you want to do it, got the most steps. And then we have, like, we can even do the kids involved too, the students involved, like which class or which grade got the most steps. And then we have like a way to celebrate it.
Right.
And the principal can be also involved in that. And everybody's getting some movement in and they feel good because they made a connection and there's some teamwork and then there's celebration, which we forget to do.
Right.
We're so
Right.
busy and it's like, oh man, I didn't even celebrate myself.
Right. And it's okay to celebrate yourself. That's the other thing. Like, it is okay to pat yourself on the
And
back.
necessary. And
Mhm,
necessary.
mhm.
Yes.
Wow. Well, thank you. You've shared some really great resources. And if there is, so if our members, excuse me, walk away with just one strategy that they should implement immediately, what would that be?
Movement.
Awesome.
Movement.
Awesome.
Yes.
Awesome. Yes.
Will be the first thing. I do have a beginner's yoga course,
Mhm.
which is for the novice as well as the person who's kind of, like, I know some stuff. So I created it so people can move their bodies and
Mhm, mhm.
have a resource for them, quick things, longer things, just so they can say, I can do this, because I
Right,
believe that your body can fit yoga. I
right.
believe that every body can do yoga. And then there's other tools on mindfulness as well as mindset. But I would say that's the lacking part. We sit
Mhm,
at our desks, or maybe we're standing up at the front of the like I had a smart board at the front where the smart board is,
mhm,
and like, when did you move today? Maybe you're eating on the run and you didn't make
mhm.
your meal, but
Yeah,
at least if you're moving your body, you can help the digestion, you can help with your circulation, you can help eliminate some of the things that are environmental factors that create um, diseases.
right, right. So if our community members want to get in contact with you, what are the best ways to reach you?
It's very easy. My website is dawnmrivers.com. I'm on all the socials as Dawn M. Rivers. Everything is the same, DAWNMRIVERS. Yep.
Thank you, Don. And we'll also make sure we link it in the description on all of our social media pages.
Great.
Thank you, thank you, thank you so much for joining us today. You have given us a lot of valuable information, and we hope to have you back again soon to help us as we start the year-end process. That is another high stressful time. And hopefully
My
by
honor.
then, yes, hopefully by then we'll have some success stories from our community members who took your self-paced beginner yoga class or did some consulting with you, um, because it is definitely needed. Definitely, definitely. So thank you for what you do. Thank you for joining us today. And thank you everyone for tuning in. Until next time, take care of yourself.